Well, let's bring in Anita Mendiratta. She's a special advisor to the Secretary General of UN Tourism. She also advises the aviation industry and is the author of the book, The Call to Leadership. Anita, thanks so much for joining us today. So should airline passengers, should they brace for higher fuel prices and therefore higher ticket prices?
Catherine, thank you very much for having me back. It's incredible we're having this conversation 5 months into the conflict when initially it was anticipated it was only going to last 5 weeks. And to answer your question, I think what's important is that, quite honestly, travelers have become quite accustomed to and familiar with the fact that this is going to be an exceptionally challenging year for travel. We know that fuel surcharges are being added on. We know that any of the hedging that was allowed with European airlines is now wearing down into the end of the year. And travelers expect that, and they're working that in because we're seeing that despite the conflict, despite concerns, despite the cost, travel is surging this summer. So interestingly, the summer travel season, with its high degree of travel activity, is giving us a bit of a false sense of confidence around this year as a whole. People are getting out there now knowing that by the end of the year, things could be much more uncomfortable when it comes to especially ticket costs for the end of the close of 2026.
Indeed, and Anita, we are seeing more restrictions, aren't we? Just today, Europe advising its airlines to avoid Jordanian airspace. Yes. Do you think people are afraid to travel, and should they be?
It's a great point that you mentioned, because whether it's a conflict, whether it's an epidemic taking place, the contagion of fear is one of the real barriers. So exactly what you said with Jordan, for instance. And if you look at it, Catherine, 1 in 7 Jordanians rely on the tourism economy for their livelihoods. It's responsible for 15% of the nation's GDP. And it has some of the most remarkable historic, religious and natural sites, including UNESCO. But they're caught in a very difficult neighborhood. So people naturally are worried about flying into Jordan and getting caught there with disruptions, because it is such a challenging region at the moment. So even if they go on holiday, will they get stuck? Will flights be grounded? Will borders be closed? So again, travelers are having to work out where they want to go, and are there considerations about the peace of mind with which they will travel, not only the route and the airlines that they're going to take. So Jordan is an interesting indication of how, even if a country is not directly involved in a crisis, the contagion of fear locks them into that psychological space with travelers.
And Anita, obviously there are other factors at play. In Europe, of course, we've seen heat waves, we've seen wildfires. Do you think people are rethinking a summer vacation in the age of extreme weather?
Sadly, Europe has been hit at many levels, as you're saying, with extreme heat and with the issues with EES, the entry and exit system. So many people are thinking they're going to explore where they want to go. But to your point about heat, interestingly, we're seeing, as we've been saying, cooler destinations further north, further out in terms of the intensity of travel growing. But what we don't want is people leaving those traditional tourism destinations, because they, again, rely on tourism for their economies. So it's about stretching the traditional tourism season, going a little bit earlier, going a little bit later in the calendar year, trying to develop year-round tourism rather than putting all of the intensity in summertime, which is heating up not only in activity, but now, as we know, in extreme heat, and putting huge pressure on all of these countries that Mother Nature, quite honestly, is simply fighting with at the moment.
Anita Mendiratta, thank you so much for your time.